everyone, and welcome to today's webinar where we'll discuss the future of AI. I'm Marla Merritt, Vice President of Partnerships at OrthoFi, and I'm excited to be joined today by OrthoFi's President, Dave Ternan. If you've attended an industry event, opened LinkedIn, or sat through a vendor presentation recently, you've probably noticed that artificial intelligence is everywhere. The conversation around AI is moving incredibly fast, and with all of the excitement comes a lot of questions. Doctors are asking what is real versus hype, and how will AI actually impact orthodontic practices? Also, and perhaps most importantly, the industry is asking what should practice owners and teams be doing today to prepare them for what's coming next? At OrthoFi, we've spent the last 13 years helping practices improve patient conversion, streamline financial workflows, and make better business decisions through technology, data, and operational expertise. As AI continues to evolve, we believe it has the potential to fundamentally change the way orthodontic practices engage patients, deliver care, and manage revenue cycle operations. Today's conversation is designed to move beyond the headlines and explore what this transformation could actually look like in the orthodontic industry. Dave is going to share his perspective on where AI is headed, how intelligent systems may reshape practice operations, and then also just how OrthoFi is thinking about building toward that future. As always, we encourage your participation throughout today's session. Please submit your questions using the QA feature, not the chat. We will reserve time at the end for a discussion. And we are also recording today's session. So the recording will be sent to all registrants probably sometime early next week. Dave, thank you so much for joining us today. And to get us started, I want to start with a question. There's so much buzz around AI right now, and that seems to be what everyone is talking about. How do you actually see AI impacting the orthodontic industry?
Yeah, thanks, Marla. Yeah, with all of the advancements in AI, I believe the next 3 to 5 years, the highest performing orthodontic practices will operate fundamentally different than they do today. So, how they engage patients, how they perform treatment, how they manage revenue cycle management, and how they make operational and financial decisions. So yeah, so the AI hype right now is absolutely crazy. It seems like every company has to have an AI strategy. It seems like every software company is trying to sell new AI features. And even with all this hype and all that's going on, I think most people are actually underestimating how transformational this technology will be. So before we dive deeper into that, I just want to take a quick step back, maybe a major step back, and just talk about what AI really is at the end of the day. And what it is really predictions. So for all the hype and impressive results, AI is really performing predictions. So just to bring that to life with two examples. So everyone that's people are familiar with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is incredibly good at taking a set of words and then predicting how a really smart person would respond with another set of words. It's pretty remarkable how quickly and accurate it can predict what a smart person would be able to do. The other one I'll highlight is autonomous driving. So it's impossible to program a car to respond to every single situation. So if you think of an example, you're in the mountains, it's icy, there's a curve, there's an animal in the road. What you need to be able to do is predict what a human would do in that situation. So in both of these examples, AI has taken an immense amount of data, real life results, and been able to learn from it so that the next time it's presented with that situation, it can predict what it should do.
Wow, that's an interesting point about predictions. It seems like things are moving really fast right now. Do you have a perspective on how predictions relate to the orthodontic industry?
Yeah, great question. So one other key concept before we dive into orthodontics, as it relates to moving fast, is in any technology revolution, the new technology eventually becomes a commodity and the cost goes to zero. So if you think of other technology revolutions like electricity, um, personal computing, the internet, cloud computing, all of those at the beginning were really expensive and really difficult to implement. But they eventually became broadly accessible and dramatically cheaper. So, and you think about it today, it's hard to imagine living a world without those technologies. And so the same thing will happen with AI. So if you think historically, for us to be able to do predictions has been really expensive and difficult. Takes years of experience, a lot of intuition, and building really complex systems to be able to figure that out. And so imagine a world where predictions becomes a commodity and it's almost accessible in every situation. And so to bring it back to orthodontics, you might be saying, what does predictions have to do with orthodontics? But I would make the statement that every orthodontic practice is in the business of predictions today, even if they don't know they are. So if you think of a practice, you're trying to predict like what marketing messages it will attract patients. What's the right offers to present to patients that will make it affordable, but not introduce too much collection risk? What's the amount of the insurance benefit? It's an estimate of an estimate, which is a great prediction problem. How do you balance your schedule and your team size to be able, have optimal schedule for patients? And then what's the right treatment modality to use for the patient to get optimal results? So those are examples of predictions at a practice level. To bring it to life a little bit more, like let's talk about predictions in the day-to-day life of a treatment coordinator. So a treatment coordinator, I would say, develops incredible intuition with years of experience. They're learning what messaging works, how to build trust, how to mine for hesitation within the patient, how to mine for conflict, and ultimately how to improve conversion. So imagine that great TC alongside a AI system that helps them to predict things. So for example, is that individual patient, how likely is that patient to convert? What is the action that's going to work with that patient to be able to improve outcomes? And then how do we personalize something to for that patient to drive results? And then how do we predict if that patient's actually going to be able to pay? So I think this is where we're headed in orthodontics. You know, the real winners, the high performing practices are going to be leveraging these intelligent systems to help predict outcomes so that they can optimize the entire patient journey.
Okay, you're painting a pretty grand picture of what AI can do. I would love for you to get more specific about how this will change, within an orthodontic office. How will they actually operate in the future?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I think one of the biggest mistakes we're all making today is with AI is we're focusing on how AI is impacting individual point solutions or automating individual tasks. And I think it's to understand where we're really headed, I think we need to think about the entire operating model and how that changes over time. So to try to bring that to life, let me share my screen here. Okay. So to try to bring this to life, I have a slide to depict a couple periods of time. So we first have the legacy column, which is the way that orthodontics have been historically operating. We have this transition period where you're adopting new technology, and then you have this future state, which is the once the technology is adopted. And we'll really talk about it across the patient engagement, conversion, clinical, and then revenue cycle management to try to bring this to life. So first to dive into the fragmented part, the legacy. So the legacy part is the way that orthodontic practices have been performing historically. As I said, most of those orthodontic practices are still highly fragmented. There's a lot of disconnected workflows. There's a lot of manual processes, and teams are spending huge amount of time and effort reacting instead of optimizing. So the key concept here is fragmented and reactive. So if you take a look through the conversion, You can probably think of a lot of conversion and patient engagement. You can think of a lot of examples of manual and disconnected workflows, right? You have the same generic messaging for every single person coming into the office. If it's an adult or a kid, you have similar type of messaging. And you have a lot of batched communication. An example of that is like, the first Friday of the month, you go through all of your failed payments is a way that you're batching communication. From a clinical standpoint, I just want to say I'm not an expert in the clinical side of things, but I'm trying to point out how the systems will impact treatment here. So in the legacy, you have generally the same type of treatment for every single person. You have scheduled appointments at set periods of time, so maybe 4 to 6 weeks, based on time. And then it's really reactive adjustments. So you adjust to what came back to your office during that appointment, or maybe a broken bracket. So it's really reactive treatment. For revenue cycle management, this is a very manual process today. Lots of phone calls, batching of tasks. Another example is every Friday we're going to go through all the claims that haven't paid, right? So that's an example of a batching. So this transition period here, which is where technology is being adopted, this is where we are today. This actually takes more time than people think, and it's usually really fragmented and messy. So, for the example of a technology revolution of electricity, once electricity was broadly available, it almost took like 50 years for people to have it broadly accessible. So, you think of a great solution like electricity took 50 years. Not suggesting AI is going to take 50 years, it's going to be much faster than that, but it does take time. During this transition time, there are some really impressive results, right? So you're starting to see some of those things. And if you think of them, most of them are point solutions. And so what I mean by point solutions, it's swapping out an individual task with the old way you're doing it to the new way you're doing it. So you're optimizing one task or one workflow at a time. And if you think of like the AI solutions that are getting a lot of attention right now, it's AI note taking, AI chatbots, AI answering new patient phone calls, AI doing payment posting, AI doing marketing messaging, right? So these tools are absolutely valuable. We're saving time, we're improving efficiency, yet we're really not transforming the broader business result. We're improving the individual tasks. So if you think about patient engagement and conversion, a lot of the things I talked about are these point solutions, right? So how do you chat? How do you interact with patients? How do you nurture leads? How do you do marketing messaging, right? Those are point solutions that are helping along the way. From a clinical standpoint, we're doing a lot more scanning, and we have AI enhancing those scans. On the dental side, you have companies like Overjet that are analyzing X-rays to find undiagnosed treatment and things like that. So you have enhanced treatment planning and even remote monitoring tools that are starting to use AI to get better insights. So great progress, but still fragmented. On an RCM side, AI is enhancing these tasks. So you're starting to get better data for eligibility. You're starting to be able to post payments in better ways, and you're starting to be able to retrieve EOBs to be able to get information about claims. So again, good results at a local individual level, but not transforming the overall the business solution yet. So in the future state where we're moving to, this is where real transformation happens. So this is intelligent systems that have adopted predictions, become connected, and continuously learning to optimize for a business result. So the key concept here is it's an end-to-end system that is optimizing for a result, not just improving one task. Okay. And so as we move, to these examples, within conversion and patient engagement, think of a connected system that's optimizing for conversion rate, production per start, and financial outcomes. So it has context across the entire flow. It's customizing actions and messaging for that individual patient. And most importantly, it's learning what's working and what's not working. So do more of what's working, do less of what's not working to be able to optimize for that result. On the clinical side, it's a similar type of concept. It's an end-to-end system that's customizing treatment for each patient that includes the treatment planning, the monitoring, and then being proactive in terms of the adjustments. So providing the right adjustments at the right time to be able to optimize for the patient results. So really moving from proactive to reactive, if you think of that. Revenue cycle management, similar type of thing. It's an end-to-end solution that's learning and adjusting. And it's especially important as carriers change rules and do all sorts of stuff, right? So using real claims outcomes to validate estimates and learn how the calculation's changing, finding optimal ways to submit claims, and determining like what are the best follow-ups that are going to ensure that you get paid as quickly as possible. So two real important points here on this future state is first, I'm not suggesting that AI is going to be replacing humans. I think these solutions are going to be able to enhance the humans, both the teams and the doctors, to provide better patient results and better patient outcomes. And the second thing to remember here is that the future winners, the high performing practices are not going to be simply using AI tools for tasks. They're going to be leveraging these connected systems to continuously learn and optimize the entire patient journey and life cycle.
Dave, I think it is so helpful to see it laid out this way. It really helps me personally to understand what's coming next. I would love to hear how OrthoFi is thinking about building toward that future state that you just discussed.
Great. Yeah, no, thanks, Marla. Yeah, so we're thinking about, I would say, transformation across two major areas. At OrthoFi, we're thinking about patient conversion and then revenue cycle management. So let's start with revenue cycle management because I think that's an area where AI can incredibly transform this. So as everyone on this call is painfully aware, revenue cycle management is a highly manual and operational complex process, right? Insurance companies have done an awesome job of making things complex and fragmenting things so people don't actually know what's happening on different parts, right? And so at OrthoFi, we've been doing this for 13 years and we've been building technology to be able to solve those problems, right? And when we weren't able to solve it with technology, we filled it in with an amazing insurance team to do tasks that only humans could do. So in this new AI world, you might have heard of the term human in the loop. I wish I had coined that because we've been having humans in the loop for over a decade here. So, and if you think like historically, software has really been rules based, building workflows that are based on deterministic logic and algorithms. And AI really changes that. We move from a static workflow to a learning system that adapts and continuously learns. So with this technology, we're rethinking our entire system from the ground up to be prediction first and AI first. And the exciting part is we're not starting from scratch on all these things. So we have 13 years of operational experience across patients, insurance, and all those areas. We have millions of historical transactions. We understand carrier payment behavior based on real claim outcomes. We have what actual human corrections and actions actually delivered results. And then, really importantly, we are able to tie the credit worthiness of patients to conversion rate and to actual payment history and collection results. So if you kind of start down that, with eligibility verification, we can use data in our experience to be able to predict like what information is really needed to calculate a benefit and what's the calculation that carrier does for this particular network, right? For payment posting, we're using new technologies with OCR to be able to read things differently and more accurately, and then learn from how humans match posting. So you can learn from how a human does it to make it more accurate. And then for patients, what's the right optimal financial term based on their credit history to be able to improve conversion rate, improve cash flow, and minimize risk. So as I said, one of the more exciting things is about the learning here. So we're building this in a way that every single thing, every single action helps to reinforce learning. So every success, every failure helps to reinforce and make the system more accurate. So again, do more of the things that are working, do less of the things that aren't working. And so I think this new approach and this new technology is going to give us a chance to solve problems that we never thought were possible before. So So that's RCM. If you move to patient conversion, I think this honestly is the most exciting part for me. And I think it has the biggest impact long term. Because if you think of it, like patient conversion is actually one of the most important predictions that a practice does on a daily basis. So in today's world, every consult is filled with uncertainty. Will the patient start? Are they shopping around? Are they going to other doctors? Are they actually going to be able to pay and afford the plans that you're putting in front of it? And historically, the practices have relied on, as I mentioned, TC intuition, right? Their experiences to be able to read the situation and individual talent to be able to do that. So, treatment coordinators have become incredibly skilled over time doing this. And with AI, it creates the opportunity to help augment the great TCs with an AI system that can give them insights to those predictions. The likelihood of a patient actually converting. What are the actions and the messaging that actually will improve outcomes? How does affordability impact the conversion for this patient? And when do you engage the patient and with what message if they didn't start treatment to be able to get them to start treatment? So importantly, this is again not about replacing humans. It's about because we believe the human relationship and building trust is critically important. It's really about enhancing that team to be able to deliver better outcomes. So, a team that has limited time, let's focus on the patients that have a higher probability of converting so that your time is more effective. And let's provide ways to personalize messaging that is easy and simple, but very meaningful in impact, right? And so again, what's exciting about this is when once you're able to connect this entire patient journey, you're able to feed context and customize every single interaction. So customizing it from the messaging, the new patient exam, the observation, how the financial terms and how you follow it. Think of it as customized for that patient based on what we know works. And then this continuous learning, I can't harp on this enough. It's like every single patient interaction, every conversation, every interaction becomes a way to learn. So do more of what's working and do less of what's not working. And so this is where I really think we can go with this is to become more predictive, more personalized, and ultimately more optimized from a conversion standpoint. So I hope this helps a little bit to paint a picture of where OrthoFi is going. We have an incredible data set over 13 years and an end-to-end workflow that's going to allow us to provide and launch these new capabilities that are going to be truly transformational. We're investing heavily right now as a company, and we could not be more excited about solving some of these problems in new ways.
This is incredibly exciting, Dave. But also it's a little bit overwhelming when I hear you talk about all of this. Why don't you talk to us about how practices can begin preparing today for this AI transformation?
Yeah, it is. It is incredibly exciting and scary. Exactly. So, the practices I don't think need to become AI experts overnight. And I think in technology revolutions, it's not always like the most tech savvy teams that win. It's the teams that are most adaptive and really embrace change are the ones that are going to win. And so, what I would recommend if you're not doing already is to start experimenting. So the super simple one is obviously like a chat GPT or a large language model. Using that for like email content or marketing messages or images. I mean, it's incredibly powerful to produce some amazing content in quick ways. Another thing to start looking at is how to automate workflows. So if you think of like simple tasks within your practice, how could you find ways to be able to automate that? In cloud co-working, which a lot of people a lot of buzz out there about co-working right now, is a great way to have non-technical people to be able to automate some of these things. So I would definitely experiment with those things. And as you experiment, I would not be afraid to ask the AI how to use the AI. It's a little counterintuitive, but almost every couple weeks I type into my AI, okay, I'm a software CEO. How do I use AI better? And every time it comes up with something that's pretty amazing. So just start there. Like as a doctor, what should I be doing? As a clinical team member, what should I be doing? Provide pretty amazing insights. I also think it's really important to start a conversation with your team about AI if you've not done that already. So have an open dialogue about AI. What is it? What could it be? Why is it important? And really set the stage for encouraging experimentation and creating that safe space to be able to learn and experiment and fail, right? The safe space to be able to do that iteration failing. So, I think it's important when you talk to your team to frame it the right way. Again, this isn't about cutting people. This is about helping the teams be more efficient, reducing repetitive work, and ultimately improving patient experiences, right? And so one thing I would do that we're doing at OrthoFi is to appoint an actual AI expert. So at a smaller practice, this might be one person, but in a bigger practice, it might be one person per area. So if you think of like the front desk, your insurance team, or your clinical, appoint somebody as that AI expert and really give them dedicated time within their day to do the research about the tools, find ways to experiment, and set the expectation that they need to learn and help to educate the rest of the team to drive change throughout the whole practice. So with all this stuff moving really fast, I would caution about chasing every shiny object. There's going to be a new AI tool. There's going to be a new model release every single week. It is impossible to keep up with it. So I don't think it's important to be on the latest version. I think it's have a tool that you feel comfortable with and use it, learn it, and then experiment it, and then maybe upgrade later at a time that makes more sense. And then I would definitely not chase every point solution that's out there. I think there's going to be a lot of valuable point solutions that are automating tasks, but I think it could be distracting to implement a lot of point solutions, and you lose sight of the bigger picture, which is a fully connected solution that's optimizing for a business result, not just optimizing for one workflow.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, Dave, for sharing all these practical steps that every one of us can start to implement as we begin to dip our toes into AI a little bit. Now, before we open up for audience questions, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
I mean, I think there's a lot of important things to think around about all this, but I think the most important is we're very early in this transformation. So I think what's interesting about that is I think there's a lot of people that are overestimating what's going to happen in the next 12 months, but we're underestimating what's going to happen in the next 5 years. So, as I've mentioned a few times, the high performing practices are going to operate fundamentally different in the next 3 to 5 years because of this technology. And AI gives us this opportunity to solve problems in ways that we never thought we could. They were sometimes too manual, too fragmented, too complex for us to be able to truly solve it. And it's not about just being more efficient. It's really about better patient outcomes and experiences and creating better financial outcomes for practices and creating growth opportunities for them. So, as we just talked about, I encourage the practices to embrace learning and experimentation. And the ones that are most adaptable, embracing change, are going to have a major advantage for the next period of time here. So, at OrthoFi, we're incredibly excited about this technology. Based on our 13 years of experience, our data, and our workflow, we're excited to bring some transformational solutions here to market soon. And we're investing, and we're excited to be building towards this future vision of what we just talked about.
Awesome. Dave, thanks so much for sharing that perspective. One of the things I appreciate most about your view of AI is that it moves beyond the conversation about tools and automation, and it really focuses on outcomes. So, throughout today's discussion, you've challenged us all to think differently, not just about how AI can help us work faster, but how it can help practices become more predictive, more personalized, and then ultimately more effective across the entire patient and financial journey. So that's been awesome. I think one of the biggest takeaways for our audience is that this transformation isn't something happening someday in the distant future. It's already underway. The practices that are learning, experimenting, and adapting today will be in much stronger positions to capitalize on what's possible over the next several years. So, for those of us who may feel a little overwhelmed, I am definitely one of those people by the pace of change. I also appreciate your reminder that we don't need to become AI experts overnight. The goal is simply just to stay curious and stay engaged, and then begin building the habits that will help our teams evolve and learn alongside the technology. So, with that, I want to turn our attention to our audience. We've received several questions. If you have more, you can still add them to the Q&A. I'd love to spend the rest of our time answering a few of these questions. And let me see if I can get over to that document. So the first one I have here are, what are some of the problems that OrthoFi has wanted to solve for years that AI now may be making it more possible and make it more quick?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. I mean, I think if we kind of go back to an example within RCM and then an example within, patient conversion, the RCM one, on the biggest thing that we've been trying to solve is the insurance companies don't give you enough data to fully calculate benefits correctly. And that's why you need to do phone calls and you need to go onto websites and things like that. So really understanding what is the right data that you need and understanding it at a level that just a human can't understand. So for example, MetLife might not require all that data, but another one might. So really being able to get specific about what actual data is needed for each practice, or sorry, each carrier, and then ultimately how do they calculate the benefit? So I think that's something that we've tried to do with algorithms and deterministic code, and it's just been too difficult. But I think with this AI learning system, being able to reinforce that. And then I think the problem on the conversion side that I'm excited that we're gonna be able to solve is, what is the probability of that patient starting? So from the moment that they schedule an appointment to the time that they actually start treatment, what is the probability based on that? And every interaction is a piece of data. And like we've talked about in this thing, is a TC picks up with intuition of like the buying signals or the positive or negative comments and things like that. But with AI, you're going to be able to do things that you've never been able to do. So you're going to see based on their interaction, are they really interested or are they not? And then with that insight, I think you can create some really amazing things. So focus on the people that have higher probability. If they don't have higher probability, here's the things that you should be doing. So those are two examples that I think this technology helps us solve that we would not have been possible a few years ago.
So there's also a question here about AI and how a TC will use it versus how a doctor will use it, and then also kind of how it plays out with the doctor and TC relationship. So and their interaction. Any thoughts on that?
Sure, yeah. So I mean, I think if we think about the TC, we've talked a lot about the helping to improve that new patient experience and be able to predict the outcomes and be able to understand, what are the right actions and messaging that's going to evoke the next step, right? And I think with a TC and doctor interaction, you know, you're going to be able to quickly understand, is it the TC that helped or is it the doctor that helped doing the closing? And if it's the doctor, let's do more doctor. If it's not the doctor, let's do less doctor. So being able to even enhance the overall workflow of what is the optimal result, right? So, I think that'll be super interesting over time. And the thing that we've noticed too, even without AI, is some TCs and doctor combinations work better than others. So a TC with a specific doctor converts this way, a TC with this doctor converts a different way. So why is that? Right now it's you kind of have to guess and intuition, but AI might be able to provide like, the personality and the personality don't match the quite way, or things like that. So I think that's what's like super super exciting about that.
Yeah, I love that. And I also love this next question. So this one, we hear a lot about burnout. And so the question here is, how can practices use AI to reduce burnout without also losing the human touch?
Yeah. Yeah. So it in this transition time, that's a really hard question, right? And I think that's the practices that get that right will be the ones that win. The thing that I've noticed with AI is the you would think that it would reduce the burnout, but it can actually increase the burnout because of the amount of content that AI can produce. So you can type into, my world, it's like, can you type in a marketing strategy or something? And all of a sudden you have like a 15-page document that you need to read. It's pretty overwhelming. So I would definitely be using AI to be able to enhance your day to day, not produce more content that you need to think more because that does create burnout. So the way I would try to avoid burnout is ultimately looking at your day to day and identifying tasks or things that you do that are really repetitive or things that you might not enjoy as much as you do. So if you don't enjoy writing emails to a patient, well, AI can help you with that. So it's really, I think, looking at your energy level and where do you gain energy and where do you lose energy? And if you're losing energy, can AI help you do that so that part of your day becomes easier? And that's what's helped me personally is there's things I get enjoyment out of and there's things I don't. And I'm trying to automate the stuff I don't enjoy as much as I can and do more of the stuff that I enjoy.
I'm betting you're automating those emails, right, Dave?
You know that I don't
Your
like email.
favorite part.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dave, for being here with us today. And I also want to thank everyone who has joined us. We know you have many, many demands on your time, and we truly appreciate you spending part of your day with us. So, if you did enjoy today's webinar, and Alan, if you don't mind sharing your screen here, if you enjoyed today's webinar, we would love for you to join us next Friday for a discussion with Dr. Matt Josie. You'll learn in this webinar, you'll learn how his practice achieved over 8% year over year production start growth in, in some times where a lot of practices have not seen growth. So we'd love for you to join us for that. We're also really thrilled to share that registration is now officially open for Fast Track to Peak Performance, which we'll host in September in Greenville, South Carolina at the BMW Performance Center. I'm telling you, I can't wait to drive one of those cars. I'll probably be Granny driving it, but we'll see how that goes. OrthoFi currently serves over 2,900 locations, and we've helped these practices start over 5.5 million starts, generating over 34 billion in production. So if you're interested in speaking to a member of our team about practice growth, we would love to connect with you. To schedule your first discovery call, please scan the QR code on this slide, and that will give you some information on how to schedule with our team. So, I hope today's discussion provided not only a better understanding of where AI is headed, but also practical ideas for how your practice can begin preparing for the opportunities ahead. A recording of today's webinar will be sent to all registrants, so please feel free to share it with your colleagues and team members who may benefit from the conversation. On behalf of Dave, the entire OrthoFi team, and myself, thank you again for joining us. We appreciate your partnership and we look forward to connecting with you again soon. Have a wonderful day, everyone.